Hello. I've recently finished the Saints Row reboot. It took me about a week, but I finally did finish the Saints Row reboot, and I have a lot to say about it actually. So, first of all, before playing the game, I would recommend before you do the actual story, if you can, do all the side hustles and all the ventures that you can absolutely because the story is like way too short, and if you do the story, it's gonna like end really quickly. So they definitely did not do very good on the story part, but I assure you, like they made several improvements to the game since the previous games. If I had to decide what inspired this game, here's the few games that I'd say probably inspired this one. I see some inspiration from Sleeping Dogs, which was by United Front Games. I see some influence from Hangar 13, which was by from Mafia 3, which is by Hangar 13, which the phone mechanic. And I think I see some inspiration from maybe an earlier build of Agents and Mayhem because I feel like it's heavily, because if you don't know, this game was made using an early engine of Agents of Mayhem, and it kind of shows because the combat is not really that good. This game is good, but it's a flawed masterpiece, as if I could probably put it. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the good things about the game right away. So they vastly improved the customization compared to all the other titles. Like, compared to Saints Row 1 and 2, like, this by far has the best customization out of the entire series. Like, I know that's a lot to, like, consider because Saints Row 2 had logo customization as well. But if I had to choose between logo customization, which was like a gift image, or like the customization in the reboot, I'd go with the reboot. I don't know what to really talk about. There's so much this game offers. I think I'll start with, the characters. Now, a lot of people hate the characters of the Saints Row reboot because, as you know, with a reboot, they completely recycle the characters and they do a complete reshuffle of the deck of cards that you play with. Like, the complete reshuffle of the cast. So, we have Eli, we have, Nia, and we have, what was his name? I think it was Alex something. I forgot like one of their names, but there's this shirtless dude. I think. I don't think I remember. I think Eli is the one nerdy guy, but a lot of people hated the characters because they didn't like the design of them because they didn't think they were gangster. But that's kind of weird because I actually think they look pretty cool for I mean, they kind of are gangsters. They each come from their own respective gang. So I got actually before I go ahead, I gotta tell you this is gonna be full of spoilers because if I'm gonna really go in depth with this game, I gotta spoil it. All right. So when I was gonna finish this game, I decided I was getting really close to the end because the game starts out with a flash forward of like the game's events and it shows you what is gonna happen. And he's like, but why? And it flashes forward, and I was like, something's up, and that kind of ruined the immersion. But, I'll give him that. It does build up the tension a little bit. And, so it starts off, with a pretty generic kind of special ops mission. I didn't really like the first mission. It felt kind of forced, and when it introduces you to the combat, it really doesn't really represent what the game's going to become and what it is going to be because you don't use any perks. It's very loose and not fluid. It's, in fact, one of the few things you're going to do is you're probably going to tweak the controls, but my god, did they improve the actual difficulty setting in this game. Like, as a hardcore Saints Row player, you need to understand, I played Saints Row 1, which is my favorite. I played Saints Row 2 on hardcore difficulty. I mean the entire game, everything. The activities in co-op. I played Saints Row 2 on hardcore difficulty. I played Saints Row the 3rd on hardcore difficulty. I played pretty much every Saints Row game on hardcore difficulty. And this game, on its hardest difficulty, it rivals Dark Souls. Like, you die really quickly. Like, they really, upped the ante on the difficulty. They really did improve the game, at least for difficulty reasons. Like, so after I died like 3 times on like the bull part where you kind of have to like hustle behind this one vehicle, you know, I decided, yeah, I'm probably gonna switch it to entrepreneur difficulty because even with the QTEs, the shooting the barrels, it was way too difficult. You died really quickly, and even then, the game was like really difficult. Now, when I was playing the game, there was several bugs, and they were too obvious to just brush them off. Like, we're talking like bugs that will soft lock your game, but not game breaking. Like, they're not game breaking that it'll break your game, like just outright make it unplayable or corrupt your file. At least not to my knowledge. Now, here's some of the glitches I experienced. There's glitches that'll straight up crash your game. Like, your games will just straight up crash randomly. It'll soft lock. I actually saw my brother playing, and the game soft locked. Like, he pressed all the buttons on the controller, didn't do anything. He couldn't play it. So, this game definitely does need some, soft touch to it. Like, it does need a little bit more care, like, in developing a patch, because it is way too buggy right now. It's not, like, Ride to Hell Retribution kind of levels of glitchy, but it's not that good. Like, the glitches, like, it kind of dwindles the hope of the game, but again, I think all things considered, despite the bugs, I still had a lot of fun with the game. Like, that says something. Like, even though there was some really bad bugs, I mean, like, some really bad bugs, like, another one, infamous bug, is, like, what really ruined the mood is, like, sometimes on the cutscene, it would, like, T-pose at, like, really crucial moments. Oh, yeah, I'm about to get on that. So, about the story, here's the problem with the story. It's not that the characters are cringe for me, because this is going to make a lot of players upset, but I don't particularly find the story cringy. Like, I played games like Life is Strange, and I've seen games like this from front to back, cover to cover, book to book, and these characters are not cringe. They actually, are pretty solid characters. Like, they actually feel like a group of friends. I think the reason, like, from where the series came from, and what it, like, is now, I think that's the biggest reason people do not like the characters. But as a person who's in the vocal minority of, like, speaking, I do like the characters. I actually do like the characters. They actually do seem like good friends and actual likable people. They aren't just annoying, like, as I thought they would be. They actually are pretty solid. And this is someone who's like a hardcore, I mean, you're looking at like a hardcore Saints Row 1 fan who thinks even Saints Row 1, like, even though I think Saints Row 1 is the best game ever, like, in the entire franchise, no dispute, I do like the reboot. That says a lot. Like, in fact, I will say this, the reboot is better. I repeat, the reboot is better than Saints Row the Third, and Saints Row 4, and Gat Out of Hell, and, dare I say, Agents of Mayhem. It's better. It's like, the reason they said the game is somewhere between Saints Row 2 and 3, nah, the tone doesn't really feel between Saints Row 2 and 3. Like, it has a heavy tone, but it doesn't really feel like it's anywhere between Saints Row 2 and 3 with the tone. It feels more like Saints Row the Third, and, a little bit of its own humor. Like, a little more tongue-in-cheek humor. Now, a lot of people do have some of the hate the cringy moments. Like, in fact, I'm not going to spoil too much, but, like, there's a whole arc where you, like, that's a Mad Max reference. A lot of people are not going to like that, but it says itself, it's completely optional. Like, it's not mandatory to do. Like, I think it's completely optional to do the Rod Warrior, like, the whole thing. And to be honest, with a game that's, kind of repetitive, like, people said the game was repetitive, I actually liked the role-playing, arc. It was, like, it made me smile, because it actually showed a softer side. Like, when you have a hardened character that's, like, really hard and that, like, takes no crap, and then you have someone, like, just bonding with their friends, it's wholesome. Like, you even saw, like, the original Saints Row 2 boss doing that, and I'm not trying to defend the reboot. Like, It's not at all on the levels of Saints Row 1 and 2. It's not that good, but they clearly did improve the customization. Speaking of the customization, yeah, the customization got a nice tuning. Like, of course you got your basic customization. You can customize your clothing. They added layer clothing back and socks. Beautiful. So you can customize your socks. It's not as intuitive as Saints Row 1, but you can customize your socks. You can customize shoes. You get layered clothing. You can actually get a shirt and then you can wear a jacket over it. But the problem with the layered clothing is your jewelry will disappear. So if you're like wearing certain things, your jewelry on your hands just kind of like disappear. And I did have some glitch problems with the clothing. Like it would reset the color scheme of the clothing. It got really annoying because I was buying clothing and it would just change back the color to like a really bland color that I didn't like. And I was like, ugh. But they did improve customization a lot. Speaking of which, they improved, like, they added new customization that, like, they let you customize aircrafts and boats now. And I don't mean, like, color customization. Like, we're talking, like, next level customization. Like, they added a wrecking ball. They added, like, magnet to the helicopters. They added some cool gadgets for the vehicles. Like, it isn't your just run-of-the-mill, like, kind of vehicle modifications. Like, they were actually interesting. The wrecking ball? It reminds me of the cut activity from like Saints Row 2, Happy Fun Ball, where you'd be like this wrecking crane and you'd wreck stuff with the wrecking ball. That is so wholesome that they actually included a wrecking ball to the vehicle. Even though it was unintentional, the fact that they added back the wrecking ball as like a cut feature was like really charming. I really like when developers add back cut features. So they really did try with Saints Row Reboot. Like you cannot deny they tried. Like the desert, beautiful setting. I love the desert. Even though you can't enter a lot of buildings, what is there is really good. That is to say it's without its problems though. I found a lot of the hustles to be really boring. Like really, really boring. Like it felt like a poor man's activity. Like in fact, I would even go as far to say the ventures are basically nerfed versions of the hardcore activities you get from Saints Row 2. So I get with the reboot, like, things are going to change. We're not going to get activities. We're going to get a complete recycle of the game engine. But they deliberately brought back the activities with almost no change. Like, they brought back mayhem, insurance fraud. They don't say outright, but they brought back Chop Shop. They brought back Hitman. But that's not really a benefit because they've been really toned down. Like, they've been really butchered. Like, insurance fraud is not fun. I don't care what anyone says. Insurance fraud is painfully boring in this version. I do not like that you bounce off the vehicles and it blows up. It's really stiff to control. It's not fun. I got really mad when I was playing these activities. Like, I got really mad. It wasn't fun like Saints Row 1. Like, when a game makes you frustrated, it makes you not want to pursue the adventure anymore. It's just, you don't want to play it. It's really bad. The activities were really uneventful and forgettable. Do not, like, I stand by what I say. I recommend you do all the content first. Like, I do mean everything. Like, we're talking discoveries, we're talking threats, we're talking side hustles. Do all that before you do the missions. Unless you absolutely have to do the missions to further your criminal empire, do not do the missions. You'll get a short game if you do that. Because I found out that the missions alone, they're really bare bones. You get some good missions here, but they really made the short story. And it doesn't really help that the story is moderately good, not just because of, like, not because what you think it is, because the characters are bad. No, I actually like the characters, like I said, but the consistency. Like, remember how I said in the beginning, like, you gotta flash forward events? Like, that kind of ruined the mood for me, because you're wearing, like, a specific suit. Which, I get it. It's like, you can't really help because it's like a cutscene render. And they have to, like, predetermine your character. But, like, you're wearing this, like, special suit that you get later on. And that kind of ruins the immersion for me because I have to wear that suit. You don't understand how important these little details are to me and how much I care about story. So, what I had to do is I had to make sure I equipped the right outfit for when that cutscene does play out. So, I had to play the entire game, essentially, with, like, a purple jacket and, the vest. Which was fine to me because I made my character fat and, I had, like, a white, kind of business shirt tucked underneath. So, it was pretty close to the vision, so I didn't mind, the little change there. it was whatever. But that is annoying. Also, another major problem I have with the game is that if you don't play missions in a certain structured order, that's not going to be good because you're going to get references to missions that happen later on. Like, for example, like, hey guys, remember when you robbed that train? And I'm like, robbed the train? Oh my goodness, I was supposed to do the train mission before this mission. And I immediately did the train mission afterwards because I felt so embarrassed. I was like, I felt embarrassed and I just decided I'm going to be more careful with how I do the missions. So if you play the missions, approach them with caution because if you do them too quickly, you're going to ruin your continuity and it's going to ruin the fun. Just take a breath, find all the discoveries. I don't mean like all the photo ops, but I mean like find all the discoveries, complete all the statistics, and then do the story. It'll be much more paid off. You'll have a ton of money. You'll get to truly, sink your teeth into like the main meat of the course of the story. So I'm gonna talk a little more about the story now. So it didn't really have that much of an impact on me. Like the most hardcore moments, like it was mostly forgettable, but there were 3 moments that I really loved from the story that I absolutely was like smiling. I was like, yeah, this does have potential to be better, but it didn't really fulfill. So one of the major points was like when you get fired from Marshall, you do get fired because I really hated Atticus because he fired you over the most trivial bullshit reason ever. Like, oh, you saved Maristar's life. You're fired. Like hell you're going to work. You're fired. And he was a complete douche nut the entire story. So it was really cathartic, to have an option where you're just like laying back in the chair and you had 2 choices. You could fire him or you could fire him. Let me explain. You had an option to like straight up fire him, the very same thing he did to you at the beginning of the game, or you could like pull out a gun and just shoot him, something that the Saints Row 2 boss would do. And people say this game is not gangster. This game can actually be pretty dark at times. Like, remember how I said you get killed in the intro? Like, I thought that was a little underwhelming, but when it actually does happen, Nagel, or whatever he's called, Newell, he stabs you in the heart. He acts like a complete jerk. He's like, you know what? I realize, why would I settle for being second in command when I could be the boss himself and take your life? But it really ruined his character when he wasn't trying to play the innocent guy. Like, I wish they played him more off like Scar from The Lion King, where he was like this goody-good two-shoes guy that was just trying to act like he's still part of the team. But he made it so obvious that he was evil. It was like, yes, you're my doll. It's like, he literally kidnaps him and puts him on a set. And he's like, I'm like, why would he do that? It kind of fell apart. Like, the humor and seriousness kind of got tangled with each other. I don't hate it, but I wish it was a little more tongue-in-cheek and not a little more forced. One thing I did like was, like, the phone instance, whatever. I'm getting off topic. I do like the humor in this game. A lot of people hate the humor and think it's cringe. I think it's kind of on par, with Saints Row. I think the humor can stay, because I actually do like the humor. It's pretty balanced. Like, it's not like Saints Row 4 levels where it's like, whoa, we're going to make a whole mission decade. No, it's like, it's like a slice of cake. Like, it's like you can eat it at your pace. I thought the story was moderately good, though. I stayed up. I had a lot of fun with the game. I don't know if I told you this already, but I actually stayed up on the 7th day that the game was out, because I got it the day after it got released. And on the 7th day, like, before the week was up, I was like, okay, I gotta complete this game. So I literally stayed up all night just finding all the discoveries, and I got no sleep. I got no sleep, and I did it all in one sitting. Now, I know their adventures and the side hustles are complete agony, and they're really unbalanced and god-awful sometimes. But if you can stick through with it and you can earn up enough money, you can buy the Saints Tower. Because I got everything done except one venture, and I was like, well, the only way I can get that venture done is if I complete a mission, and I don't have the best friends mission unlocked yet. So I was just like, I'm gonna beat the game, see if I can get it, because I knew it was the game because it had party, and the cutscene flashback was a party. So I was like, okay. So I beat the game and killed Noel, because you save your friends. I think that's pretty obvious. and you defeat New Isle, and the veto part was badass, by the way. I like the song. It really felt gangster. Um, and then, you build the Saints Tower, and I thought it was so over the top. I was like, what is even happening? I thought, my only complaint is I think it dragged on a little too much. Like, I thought it was funny. I thought building the Saints Tower and then getting the cutscene immediately afterwards, I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, I did just spend $8 million. How else are you going to celebrate that? Other than having a completely balls to the walls insane cutscene. But I liked it. It was at the end of the game, and it was like after everything's said and done, and I liked it. And that flashback scene where you were like buried alive, that hit hard. Like, they needed that, some of the quirky moments in that, flashback to like bounce it out, because it was really dark. Like, you were somewhere between death and life during like the buried alive scene, because he straight up he stabs you in the heart and buries you alive, and it is so badass that you're just like, you stick your hand out from the grave and just resurrect yourself. It is so cathartic. It makes the boat explosion that you went through in Saints Row 1 like minuscule. It looks like a tea party compared to like, I don't know. I think that's kind of stupid that I just said that, because I think we can all speak for ourselves when getting blown up on a boat and getting your face reconfigured is way worse than getting stabbed in the heart. That pretty much says it all right there. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. All that said, I do think the side hustles are pretty bad and forgettable. Like, they're a mixed bag. You'll enjoy a few of them, and you'll have fun with probably a few of them, because a lot of them are fun, but they are really, emasculated, not as fun as like Saints Row 2 activities. So I got cut off points for that. The gun customization was improved. I mean, it was so improved. You can like had materials on your rifle, patterns, you name it. The only thing they don't have is like scope customization. Like, they have this Tommy gun, but you can't add a drum mag. You can't add like the cylinder kind of mag, which is kind of disappointing. But they have a decent selection of guns. I do think they could have improved the ante a little bit, like improved the guns a little bit. Like but it's not bad. It's fine. And you can go around the map, and there's like some fun stuff to do, and something might catch your attention. Like, you'll be doing something, and like you'll see an Easter egg, or you might see something interesting. The desert's kind of empty. It doesn't really have that much interesting stuff going in on it aside from discovery. So you're gonna have to really look to find some hidden treasure in the wasteland. But it is fun. Like, there's shooting galleries. There's, like boards you can listen to learn lore. There's like drug packages you can collect. There's Chop Shop, which is kind of fun. I actually would recommend you do gym robs. I think out of all the adventures and side hustles in the entire game, you want to know my favorite, right? I think the chopper one was probably like right up there, and the assassination ones, because you know how much of a fanatic I am about Hitman. Even though it was incredibly butchered, and I mean like it was super butchered. Like, it only has 12 targets. Oh, one more thing I want to talk about right now about gameplay is I hate the wingsuit. Like, I think the wingsuit is the crutch in the game. Like, it is the absolute worst thing in the game. Like, it is not fun to control the wingsuit at all. Like, it felt tacked on, and I rarely use the wingsuit. If you ignore the wingsuit and just forget it exists, other than like, maybe to like act like kind of an agent and just kind of glide off the buildings without dying, it's alright. It's like a replacement for the parachute, because I guess it's cooler to glide than to use a parachute. So it's a mixed bag. You do get cool upgrade after everything's said and done. You get like a boost with it. They added perks to your weapons. They added perks, so you hit RB and you can select like these perks that give you like special abilities, I guess. It's all right. I have mixed feelings about this. I think it's a little too overpowered, because it kind of ruins the mojo of what they were going with. Like, if they include them in the sequel, that'll be cool, but it's alright. It's a mixed bag with the perks too. Some of them do make sense, like the dual wielding, but others are just kind of They're alright. They really don't make much sense. Uh, Eureka was the Eureka one where you do experiments on the prototypes. That was really fun. I really did like building that venture. It was really short and it introduced some cool content. You know, I think overall, I think the game's like a. I think the adventures are like a mixed bag. You're gonna like some of them, but you're gonna really hate some of them. The worst offender to all these, was the mayhem with the tank. My God, I hated the tank mayhem. Like the problem with that one was when you shoot it, it takes a while for it to reload, and unless you're like building up a combo, you're gonna fail like almost instantly. And I got really mad at that one. But there is a good thing to this. Now that I've talked about Tank Mayhem, I do realize what my favorite, venture was. It's a tie. It's between the pony, you know, like transport one, and it's the assassination one. They're both really good ones, and I honestly really like the Pony Express one because it inspired you to be creative. Even though it made me rage at the end, the very ending of it was satisfying. I don't want to spoil that for you. So, all things said and done, Saints Row Reboot, I think Saints Row Reboot is a good yet flawed game. It has some horrendous bugs, and it has some questionable decisions with inconsistencies. I felt the gang, storylines ended abruptly, but it kind of built up to the ending a little bit, I guess, so I'm not going to bash it too much. I think, the ventures were a mixed bag. I think the side hustles, were mediocre at best. And it's alright. It's pretty good. So, I think I'll rate this game a solid 7 out of 10. It's a tier above Saints Row the 3rd and 4 and God of Hell. But it's nowhere near the range of like Saints Row 2 or Saints Row 1. Like Saints Row 1's a 10 out of 10 for me. I think it's like perfect. Saints Row 2 is a 10 to 9 because it removed a lot of content and it felt a little bit, the combat felt a little weird in that game. I didn't like the combat too much in Saints Row 2. But this is Saints Row Reboot. Combat is alright, The gun combat feels a little crisp, but melee and, fist, it's not really there. Like, they really do need to improve the combat, at least with fist and melee. It does feel a little off and floaty. But yeah. So, my final review for the Saints Row Reboot is a 7 out of 10. I think it's a flawed and good game with a lot of good concepts that ultimately weren't executed to its fullest potential. It has a lot of good content going for it, and I think you should give this game a try. I do think it's a little expensive, for its price, but I think if you were to pay around $30 to $40-ish for it, it'd be worth the money. But, if you want to get it for, like, $20 more, it's not, like, bad to buy it for, like, $60. It's not, like, that bad of a profit, but you try and do the discoveries, and I can't stress this enough, try and do like the side content first. Unlike all the other games, like try and do the side content first. Don't do the main missions or you'll regret it, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna do all the main missions and then all you're gonna have left is like the bonus content, and you're gonna like sucker yourself out of like 9% of the game. You need that side content to pad the game out to make it worthy. 7 out of 10 is my final score. You can't change my mind with that. I think the characters are alright. The writing's decent. I think the story's, somewhat mediocre. It ends a little too abrupt. I think the ending itself is actually really good and makes up for the story. But I thought it was all around a pretty decent game. Would I recommend you go out and buy it right now? Sure. Why not? I think, it's a very mixed flavor of a game. Like, some people are absolutely going to love it. But if you're but maybe someone who sees the series through a rose-tinted glass and just expects what came before it, like, they're going to be severely disappointed. And I think that's why a lot of people like me, well, not particularly like me, but people similar to me, don't like the reboot. I think it was overly bashed due to bad marketing and, you know, like reviewers that just bomb it. It does not warrant, it's not a bad game by any means. It's not a perfect game by any means. It's a pretty good, decent, all-around solid game. I think for what it's worth, you should go out and play it. I think, as a Saints Row 1 fan who values Saints Row 1 the most, I think you should go out and play the reboot. And this is coming from like an OG, like an original gangster fan, you know, who's played all the games and pretty much gotten all the achievements. I do think the reboot is, you know, incredibly worth it. So that is my take on the Saints Row reboot. I'd like to know what your opinion of the Saints Row reboot is. If you do tell me about it, please be reasonable about it. Don't just say, like, I have a bad opinion or, like, attack me. Like, I never like it when people just attack someone for having an opinion. That's not cool. But yeah, that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know the quality's not there, but, you know, I think I did pretty good for the review. There were some things I could have talked on, but I think, for the most part, you should experience the game for yourself. So yeah, that's the Saints Row reboot review. I hope you guys have a good day. And I hope you go out and play the reboot. Please let me know what you think. Until then, see you next time.